The idea is that we can start to master our emotions and get ourselves 100% in control. So that's the whole point of tonight. And yeah, I mean, we're all going through this. We're all going through these lockdowns. And so we really want to be able to handle them and yeah, just get that frontal part of our brain, the thinking part, to be working our way through our problems instead of just freaking out, which then causes anxieties and then people get down. And, and God forbid if you've lost your job and all that sort of thing. I mean, you can imagine what people are going through. So I thought, well, let's do a little session just on emotional mastery, getting ourselves up and about, getting ourselves moving forward so that we can, those big feelings come up, we can control them and master them. And you might need to go off and do some other work and go and hit a punching bag or go and see a psychologist or go and see someone. But in the short term, we can handle it. And in those long periods between seeing people, we can handle it. So that's the whole point of today. So welcome, everyone. You can see we've got a few more people in the room. Fantastic. So we've got a nice crowd who have come along. So we've got Jot, Julian, Gary, Taft, Rashane, and Will. So thanks, everyone, for coming along. And I will jump into my little presentation and then we'll get into doing a little activity on spinning our feelings, getting to know where our feelings go in the body. And then because your brain is like a holographic machine, it's like it's got this sort of imagination to it and it's connected to your body. And you can really start to affect how you feel by simply playing around with the componentry of how you've stored these feelings. So it's super exciting, super powerful. And what I thought we'd do tonight is we'd actually start off with a good feeling. So we'll go to one of the best things that maybe have ever happened to you in your life. We'll identify what that is, and then we'll increase that feeling and see how that fills the body with different emotions as you go back to those memories and trigger off those good feelings. And then we'll test it out on a negative feeling or something you're not happy with, but we'll make sure we don't choose like the biggest, baddest, hairiest thing that you've got to deal with. We'll make sure we deal with something that is, just maybe you get cut off in traffic and you get angry, or it might be something sort of medium level. And so you can start to learn this skill, because like anything, it's a skill and we want to try and learn these skills. We don't want to put it up against the biggest, baddest, hairiest, oldest anger event in your life, or trauma, or some deep thing, right? So we'll test it out on something that's a bit more subtle. So that's the plan. We'll make a good feeling go up, and we'll then try and turn around a negative feeling. That's the two things we'll do. So I'll jump into my little presentation. It's just going to lasso me, make sure I don't get off track, because I get a bit excited by all the coaching stuff that I do. And then we'll go through the activity. So now just allow me to jump into my little presentation. And I'll just share this, and I'll just ask everyone, can everyone see that screen? I will be your trainer today, Matthew Tait, Fork in Road Coaching. I love training and teaching and sharing these techniques, and I love doing it. I'll do this for free because it's so much fun. I really enjoy sharing the skills that I pick up with my own coaching practice and helping my clients, helping myself, and learning new things and then sharing those. So there's so many great things that we can share to help ourselves get those emotions back in track when you're in lockdown. So what we're going to do today, I'll go through just a brief introduction just for a few minutes, and then we'll jump into the description of the spinning feelings, and then we'll go through an activity session where I'll get you to just go through your emotions in your mind, and we'll do some things where we just try to access some of your good feelings and just start to play around with the features. And it's amazing what you can do when you start playing around with these techniques. So a quick introduction of myself. My name's Matthew Tait. I help people with anxiety, stress, and overwhelm. And what I find is I'm attracting a lot of people at the moment who are trying to, surge ahead and reach some sort of a goal or a dream, but they actually hit against the wall of anxiety of, oh, what are we going to do? Which is quite normal when we're trying to break out of that. Perhaps you're trying to start a business and you're hitting that, anxiety of the old employee mindset, the old employee identity is sort of fighting you. And that's what I help people with. So I do that via one-on-one coaching programs, and online courses, because I love presenting and I love sharing these ideas. And why fork in the road coaching? Well, it's all about hope, because there was a time when I had the anxieties and I was really stuck, and I thought, oh my God, I'm broken. My brain's not working. And if I just knew I had all of these techniques that I now know, then hope would have kept me going, and I would have had so much more energy to step forward. So that's what I want to give people, is hope that there's so many things that they can try. And that's one of the things that really drives me moving forward. So a little housekeeping before we begin. Today is completely complimentary, so relax and have fun, because I've got nothing to sell. There's no money or anything here today. So it's just a free session for me to get to know the community. I want to meet some people who love to change themselves, and I want to have fun doing it. And I want to meet some people that, you know, want to get more out of life. So that's what today is all about. So you can all relax and just chill out and enjoy learning some new stuff. The only opportunity I give people today is that I offer, for anyone who sends me an email or contacts me before tomorrow, is a one-on-one complimentary roadmap session. And that's where, for anyone who wants to get moving, like I suggested, like some of my clients have, who they're stuck and they're not moving forward, that's what that session is all about. And it's complimentary, right? So I'm offering free coaching, basically one-on-one coaching via Zoom usually. And so there's my details there, and I'll put in the chat box also my number, and you can text me if you want to chat some more about that, and just send me a text, let's chat, and I'll offer you, anyone who's shown up here, that one-on-one roadmap session where I can help you get unstuck, regardless as to whether we do anything together or not. So that's there, and I'll also put in my email address. And it's matt@forkinroad.com.au. So that's just my little blurb, just to show you who I am. And if you want to get in touch with me, that session's on offer today. So the roadmap session, it's really about your starting point. Some people don't really even know where they're at in their life. And if they know where they're at, then they don't know their destination. And just like Google Maps, if you don't put in the destination into the phone, it doesn't know where to send you. And then once you've established that point B, that destination, then I help people bridge that gap. And that's what my passion is, because I've gone through that myself, and I always am continually going through that, figuring out my point A and my point B and joining that together. So that's what that roadmap session will help you do, which fits in nicely with my fork in the road idea of my business name. And there's also a Facebook group and a website. So you can go and have a look at those But if just contact me on those two, the email address and the phone number, if you want to reach out, and just say, let's chat, and I'll reach out to you and we'll have a conversation. All right, so jumping into the spinning feelings technique. It's so much fun. So the spinning feelings technique is a technique where we're going to learn where our emotions go in the body. And so it can be used for anxieties. It can be used for unwanted fears. It can be used for public speaking. It can be used for lockdowns, which is what I was suggesting in some of my posts. So the whole point of this is that, you know, with myself, I know I've certainly had times when I've been anxious if I was going to get on a stage, and that's where I could spin the feelings inside myself, neutralize them enough, get myself back in the room, because your brain's left the room. It's left the reservation if you're freaking out, and just get myself breathing and back in the present moment, so I can handle it and really show up differently for myself, show up differently for my family, show up differently for the work situation I might be in. So that's the whole point of spinning feelings. So where did this all come from? Well, it's attributed to four. I added one just before I realized. 4 people, pioneers, who developed these mindset techniques, and they don't actually know who's taken ownership of them. Richard Bandler was one of the early developers of a mindset technique called NLP. And what he did was create these ways where he unpacked how we code our emotions, our feelings, our memories inside our bodies. Excuse me. And so he was one of the earlier videos I've seen online when I've done research on this. John Overdorf is also someone who's done the spinning feelings techniques, one of the earlier pioneers. Steve Andreas, who learnt from Richard Bandler and was attending some of Richard's classes, but was also a co-developer and in his own right has really taken the spinning feelings to a new level as well. And once again, his videos are very, very old, like back in the 80s or whenever that was, quite a long time ago. And then another person who's in more recent times is David Snyder. And he's got an incredible array of meetups and videos and all sorts of content online. He's very easy to find. And he has a lot of content on spinning feelings. And I've learned a lot from all of these guys. And I'm going to blend some of their techniques tonight. In particular, Richard Bandler and Steve Andreas is probably more the first one. And then the second technique we'll do, which is the David Snyder version, slightly different, but it's all about playing with our internal field. So as David Snyder says, if you can point to where it is in the body, to where you can feel it, you can change it. And so this is where you start to, your mind turns the feeling into an object your mind can then play with. And so all emotions can be felt in the physical body. If you think about it, they're all felt. And so by being able to find where the feeling is, these feelings in the body, we can change them, we can move them, we can activate them, right? So you can actually start to take control of the system. And so the very first one, I'm calling it round one of our little feeling techniques tonight, is starting with a good feeling. So what I want you to do now is to go into the past in your mind's eye and think about the best feeling you've ever had. Now let's keep this G-rated. But the best feeling or one of the best experiences where you were like totally confident, or maybe you were totally empowered, or where you just thought, I just can't do any wrong. What would be an example of one of the best feelings you've ever had in your life? And so we get some interaction. Just put in the chat box, what would be an example of the best feeling or the situation? And I've said keep it G-rated, of course. But where's the situation? Maybe it was traveling overseas. Maybe it was landing a new job. Maybe it was, playing a sport and you were invincible that day. Or maybe it was asking a girl or a boy out. Like, what would be in the chat box? Type into the chat box an example for me. What would be an example of the best feeling you've ever had in your life? Like where you've just felt amazing. Has anyone got anything in the chat box? I'll give you a moment just to type in there. All right, I'll keep on rolling. But just think about, oh, new job. That's nice. That's nice. That's great. So, and what was the feeling that came from that new job? It was like excitement. It was a possibility. What do you think the emotion was? When I was standing on the Great Wall and I couldn't believe I was actually there. Wow, that's cool. That's a good one. So that's a very unique experience. And so we can really start to use those experiences. And what was the feeling? So the new job, what was the feeling behind that? Because this is where we can start to access it. So you've got this new job coming up. You're standing on the Great Wall of China. What was the feeling, do you think? Feeling integrated into a new country. Wow, that's cool, Julian. That's great. So feeling integrated into a new country. So would the word acceptance be being fully accepted and fully... There's also a feeling of safety in that word, isn't there? There's a safety as you land in a new country and you're feeling fully integrated in that new country. You're feeling kind of safe because it's no longer this foreign thing. It's now your home. So there's a lot of good feelings in that. And so what I want you to do, so we've got 3 good ones there. That's really great. Thanks for interacting. It makes it so much better when we have interaction. And so the feeling, I want you to close your eyes for a moment. I'll take you through the spinning feeling technique, but I want you to remember that time when you felt that best feeling ever, the new job, standing on the Great Wall, feeling integrated into a new country. And I want you to see what you saw, feel what you felt, and hear what you heard. And just close your eyes and really go back into that event. And I'll stop sharing for a moment. Really go back into that event where you saw, you felt, and you heard. And what was being said? What were the noises around you? What do you see in your mind's eye as you look through your eyes? And what thoughts did you have in your head at that time, that incredible time when you had that moment? It's truly, truly amazing. And there's a feeling that you're going to get. And that feeling that you get is going to be in your body. And so I want you to keep your eyes closed. And as you go back into those memories and that incredible feeling that you've got, I want you to go back into that feeling and relive the event like you were still there, seeing all the things that happened, feeling all the things that happened and hearing them all, thinking all the thoughts that came into your head. And notice that the feeling this event gives you, and notice, where does that feeling start in the body? That feeling's got to be in there somewhere. So you've got this incredible feeling. It might be empowered. It might be excitement. It might be, wow, this is something new. That fresh feeling. Notice where it starts in the body. And if you're not sure, check where this thing is. You can say out loud, I feel, and whatever your word is, I feel invigorated. I feel empowered. I feel confident. I feel amazing. Whatever is attached to that memory. And as you feel that feeling attached to that memory, notice where it is in the body to start with. And notice where exactly that is and where it starts. And where does that feeling then move? So it might start in your stomach, or it might start in your heart, or start in your head or your throat. It could start anywhere. And then where does it move? And if there's a feeling, and as you make that feeling get stronger and stronger, you'll notice it moves. And a lot of people, it moves up the body, but it could move in any direction you like. It might go up, down, sideways, diagonally, whatever it is. Just notice where it moves. And then as you take away that feeling, when you stop thinking about it, where does it go then? A lot of people, it might settle back down to where it started. It might come outside of the body and sort of loop around and come back in. It doesn't matter. It's all in your mind's eye, but it's whatever answer you give is right. Close your eyes and check in. And as it goes around, what I'd love you to do, as that feeling is coming up and then dropping away, grab hold of it and then make it follow the same path again. And you'll get a bit of a rotation, a bit of a spin, a path of travel. And you can start to spin that feeling around the body. And this is that feeling when you got the new job, that feeling when you were standing on the Great Wall of China, that feeling when you were integrated into that new country, and spin it around the body. And what I want you to do is spin it faster and faster inside the body, up and down that path. Spin it faster and faster and expand it and double the spin of that feeling. Double the spin. You can even get your hands involved like this. And just imagine that feeling is spinning through the body even faster. It might come up through your head and down through your throat, any way you like, and spin it faster and faster and faster. It's that feeling that's shooting around your body, inside your body. Spin it faster and you double it and double it again and double it again and double it again. And when it's got a life of its own and you know you've got it, just let it spin by itself and just notice how your emotions have changed. Spinning it around the body and just allow that feeling to expand and let it fill up all the pores of your body. And imagine that light of energy, whatever that is, and it's got a color. What is the color of that feeling as it goes up and around, up and around? Give it a color. The color of the new job, the color of the Great Wall, the color of feeling integrated. And remember that color and remember that direction of spin, because you now have a little tool that you can start to play with. And you can start to play with that up and down the body, whichever direction it went. And you can even tweak the direction to get more out of it. So you might have taken it a certain way. Maybe you might twinge it a little bit, depending on what your system needs. Now, it's a fun little technique, and just, you can open your eyes and breathe in deeply now. And what I'd love to hear from everyone in the chat box, make this interactive, is you could probably turn on your camera, or you turn on your audio, and just tell me, or put in the chat box, what happened for you. So as you did that, it's great to get some feedback to see what the color was that you came up with of that feeling of those new job, the standing on the Great Wall, the feeling integrated into a new country, which were in the chat box there. And so what was it for you? What was that happened? Can anyone open up and explain what happened in that little moment? Was it let's start with the color. What was the color, and put in the chat box, what was the color that came up for you of that feeling in the body? And was there a word, like, was it invigorated? Was it excited? Is there an actual energy? Was there actual emotion that came up for you guys? So just put in the chat box, or if anyone's happy to turn on their audio or video, either or, and just put in the chat box what you felt. What was that emotion? What was the color that came up in that feeling? Because what you find is, if you can start to turn these things into elements you can see, hear, or feel, you can start to master them. These are the components that they were talking about in NLP, or the neuro-linguistic programming, which is the words, the brain, the words, and the patterns that we all have. So does anyone have of the new job, the Great Wall of China, and the feeling integrated? Was there a feeling that came up? Has anyone got anything they could put in the chat box? So we have excitement. And what color was that excitement? Did it have a color? John? It was red. Fantastic. So you had a red excitement. And what was the location that it started in the body? Was it sort of stomach and then coming up, or was it? Everyone's different. It could have been anything. There is no wrong answer. It's all right answers, because everybody codes things slightly differently. And how about Julian? Did you have a color in yours, Julian, of being integrated into a new country? What was the color that you had inside the body? And Gary, did you have that feeling inside the body? So that feeling, that color, if you can identify and see what that is, and sometimes we can be a little bit, us blokes, us men in particular, we can be really chopped off from our body because we're told not to feel anything, right? And so it's starting to connect back up, and that's the challenge of these spinning your feelings technique, is if you to really access that. But as you're feeling it going around your body, did everybody have the emotion moving through the body somewhere and starting to expand and get bigger? Just put a Y in the chat box. Didn't move. And so that's a great thing, because what we can do is we can start to move it. You can actually start to control it. And so wherever it was, we would have had a red color in a particular location. You can imagine it moving around the body, and just imagine what is a good maneuver for your body, because everybody's different. There's no right or wrong way. It's about, all right, imagine it's in the stomach, and I'll just spin it around in a circle, literally spin it in its location. And if you can imagine it just turning, all of a sudden, even if it's slowly, you've started to take control of your mind-body connection, because you're imagining it. It's all in our heads. But the reality is, our brain and our body are very much holographic in nature. And they really do want to move the energy around, but sometimes it's stuck for a reason. But as it's an energetic, it might actually be that you spin it inside itself. And I've had one person talk about, well, it's not moving, but maybe the atoms inside are moving. It's all about what we can imagine. And the atoms inside have got a little spin going on inside the electrons inside the atoms. And so that's something that we can all play with. And that is an example of the positive emotions and what we can do with that. So we've got the positive emotions. and we can start to spin those out. And so, those who want to put more in the chat box, that's great. But if not, that's cool. I can move on to changing a feeling. But first, I wanted to build up your skills to get to know your system, to get to know the feelings inside there. And you've got the word excitement for Jot. Julian, did you have a word for your feeling integrated? Was it being accepted, or was it being sort of welcomed, or what was the feeling? Because if you can get the word of the feeling, it's a lot easier to access the actual color. And of course, once you've got the color, that's when you can start to really play around with some of the other settings. And Gary, did you have a particular emotion with the new job? So we've got Julian's got belonging. Cool, that's an excellent word. And was there a color that came up for you, Julian, inside that belonging? No color? And was there a shape that came up for you in that belonging? Like, was there a spot in the body where you say, I feel belonging? No? What about thoughts? So what are the thoughts that come through your mind when you've got belonging and you feel like you're belonging, like you've been integrated into a country? Is there something that goes through your mind? So that would be something to work with and see what can work in the mind. Like, so if you're feeling belonging, it's like, oh, it's nice to be accepted. Or there might be a one-liner word phrase that you say, which is in the very much the thinking realm. So there's the thinking realm. There's the things that you hear. Was there anything that you hear that you, when you think I belong, what are you hearing? Are other people saying that to you? Because you can use that as well. And you've also got those feelings. So you don't have the feeling and you didn't have a color, which is okay. But maybe there's a shape inside the body somewhere. And, oh, well, I feel it in my heart because I feel like I'm belonging. And that could be whatever you need to be. And this is where, without videos on, it's a bit tricky. I'm just working through a chat box and I'll be able to pick up on in a conversation normally with a client that as to how we would work through that. And so the idea here is to try and turn our feelings into elements that our brain can grasp. Otherwise, it's just things happening to us. And when your brain can grasp them, you can then start to be the puppeteer of your own mind and your own body, which is amazing. So what we'll do now is we'll jump into the next part, and I'm just checking the time. We'll jump into the next part, and we'll jump into the presentation. Let me jump back in. And so we've gone and checked in about this good feeling, and we've spun it around faster and faster. I've just typed them out, the words roughly that I was saying out loud to everybody. And we've noticed if it is spinning and imagine the path that it was going in. And then we've doubled it and doubled it again. And then notice the color and notice how we can then get that feeling coming through the body. Now, some people didn't have a color, other people did. Some people didn't have a location, other people did, but there was a color. And maybe that color was actually in our mind, which we can say is in our head, and imagine it there. And the thing is, we could start to master those elements once we actually put them in place. So it's about getting to know yourself, asking questions of yourself and asking questions where they live in the body. So the idea was to notice that vibration, the color, the shape, the movement, and to let that feeling get bigger and bigger. And some people will actually just expand it. It might be just this feeling. I just want to expand it inside. Just imagine a big bubble getting bigger and bigger. And so, for example, Jot had the red excitement of the Great Wall of China. Well, just imagine this bubble getting bigger and bigger inside your heart and just filling up the body. It actually starts to change your emotions. It starts to, lift you up. Or imagine belonging. And that's starting out as a shape. It might be a, love heart or something. And you can just imagine that in the heart space getting bigger and bigger and filling up your entire body. And there's a whole lot of processes that you can do on that. So it's really interesting when you actually find components that resonate with you. And we've found a couple of little pieces here, even through a chat box today, which is fantastic. So once again, thank you for interacting, guys. Really does help with getting the session moving. And so now we'll jump back into the presentation. I'll do a reversal, shall we say, of the negative feeling. And we'll see how you go with that. So let me just go back in there. And so we had a quick chat. We've already done that part. And now we will jump into aiming at round 2. This is the second round. So there's a quick session we're doing tonight, not a long one, just to show you different things we can do to spin out our feelings. So let's aim at shifting a feeling that you don't want and you don't feel that you need, right? You don't want it anymore. Maybe you're angry in traffic, you're annoyed at coworkers, or anxiety socially, or anxiety public speaking, or it could be something else. Is there something that you don't want, and something that was this week or this month, something's medium level that is you do get quite annoyed at and you just want to sort it out. You want it to go away. You don't want it anymore. And so when we look at that, it might be afraid, upset, angry, sad. It could be frustrated. It could be guilty, ashamed, mad, all sorts of things. You can choose a recent one. These are just words. And so let's choose one that you want and put in the chat box maybe a feeling or something you'd like to shift, or something that's really annoying you that you would like to shift, and making sure that this is a feeling that you don't want, and giving it a score out of 10. So I'll just stop the share. Well, just make sure though we don't choose anything traumatic, right? So something in that sort of 1 to 5 out of 10. It's annoying. It's coming up all the time, and you'd like to move it and shift it, and you'd like to shift it in a more positive direction. And so in the chat box, what would be something from this week, a feeling that you'd like to spin in the opposite direction, that you'd like to change the feeling of? So just put in the chat box if there's something that, an example. Where's something like you're annoyed, you're mad, mad at your partner or something, or we just would like to just take control of that feeling. And this one, worried about work. Yeah. So you're worried about work, anxiety leading up to a performance review. Oh yeah. That would have been a great one. Absolutely. If that was had past tense. So those are 2 great examples. And so you're worried about work, and there's an anxiety to that, and a feeling might come up at the time, and you might not have it now, but you might have it when you're going to work, or maybe you're worried about your work even being there, with COVID. Or maybe you're worried about, or with the anxiety leading up to a performance review and your relationship with the person who you know is going to give you the performance review. So there's a lot of anxiety in all of that. And so what we can do is similar to that last process. We can locate maybe where it lives in the body. But what we can do is, or maybe there's a color. But this one, I'm going to sort of tweak around a little bit. I'll go back to the presentation to lasso myself, because otherwise I'll get carried away. But I'll just jump back in and I'll share with you the next part. So we've got that. Now, actually, give me a score out of 10. I'll come back to the chat box. Give me a score out of 10 of those 2 examples from Will and John. What would be the score out of 10 when this was at its worst? And or even now, like, is worried about work, is it an 8? Is it a 7? Is it a 3? Like, give it a score out of 10 as to how you're feeling about this. And we'll see if we can tweak it a little bit and measure before and after, a little bit of scientific. So 99, 99, 7. All right. So 7, is that the number? I'll take that as the 7. Yes, 7. Now 0, but a couple of hours leading up to it was probably a 6. All right. Well, that memory will no doubt still be in the body, so we can probably still pull some of that together for you. That's great. You've got a number. Fantastic. And so you've got this number out of 10. And you've got this feeling, the feeling. So go into that old experience and have a think about how that felt, and where do you feel it in the body, this anxiety? Is it sort of solar plexus? Is it stomach? Like, what happened at the time? Will's having a laugh there. What happened at the time? Where is it in the body? If you were to say, all right, well, I was feeling anxious, and you go back into that feeling, go back to that moment where you were feeling anxious about the performance review. You were feeling a 7 out of 10, or maybe still are, about your job and whether it's going to be there or how things are going there, whatever the context is, and all the things you see, feel, and hear. And we want to just control that so that we can think more logically about how we're going to sort out our part of that, the things we can control. That's the whole point of this, is to try and neutralize the emotion so we can think about our way through it and then sort it out, as opposed to just sitting, as we all do with COVID sometimes, the fetal position at home. We don't want that. We want to actually, right, well, what can I actually do? Because when we can get into doing something, but we can only do and calm ourselves down when we've got our brain back on track, the old prefrontal cortex, the thinking brain. It's the thing that separates us from all other animals. And so what we want to do is calm down the emotions to keep this back online so that we think our way through things. So we've got a 7 and a 6. I think they're pretty good numbers in context. There's no trauma, I'm assuming, involved in this. Make sure there's no massive trauma. But what I want to do is help you to move these feelings. So let's just go back to my little screen share for a little bit, and then I'll come back to you. And so what we're going to do is we're going to locate where this is in the body, and then we're going to create a movie of it and rewind it, which is a little bit of a detachment of those old emotions. And then we're going to find the spin, and then we're going to reverse the spin. But I'm going to slightly go off the PowerPoint after, because I'm going to get you to pull the feeling out of the body in your mind's eye. So we'll do all of this, and I'll take you through it step by step. So say out loud, whatever that emotion was. I am, packing myself. I am afraid. I'm scared. I am anxious about this performance review. And you say it out loud and point to where you feel it in the body. So if you were to say out loud, I am anxious, and you feel a little bit of something in the gut, whatever it might be. And as you feel into that feeling in the gut, you're going to notice it's got a particular element to it. And as we go into that feeling in the gut, I'll just share my screen again, pointing to where you feel it. It might be in your gut or your solar plexus, or wherever it is for you. And some of you had a color. Do you have a color of this? Because it's good to create an option for you to play with. Is there any color? Put in the chat box with the 2 examples we've got. If you go back to that old experience where you see what you saw, you hear what you heard, and you feel what you felt, let's put in the chat box, what is the color that comes to mind? And where is it? Is it in your body? Is it around your body? There's some sort of emotion surrounding you. Just put in the chat box a color if one comes up. So that's 7 out of 10 for Will. There's no color for you. And what about Will? Is there any color for you? It's blue. And so do you have a location where it is in the body? This feeling. So got Will's blue in the chest. That's great. You've got 2 great features there to play with now. And what about you, Jod? Is there somewhere in the body where you've got that anxious feeling? It was a 6 in your stomach. Right. Fantastic. Well, you've both got something to play with now. And so you got this feeling in the stomach. You got this feeling in the chest. It's blue. And for Jot, maybe it's got a vibration. We'll get into that in a second. And what I want you to do is I want you to take that feeling and notice as you look at it in the stomach. But what we're going to do, I'm going to go off my little script here because this is the way I like to do it. I want you to imagine in your mind's eye that you've got these magic hands that can grab that feeling out of the chest, and we're going to grab it and we're going to hold it out in front of us. And there's going to be an emotion sitting in your hand, right? This is all in your mind's eye, right? We'll close our eyes in a moment. And when we do that, we're going to imagine we're pulling it out, right? So just follow my lead. It's all about the mind playing with the body. And then I'll take you through a little process. Okay, so close your eyes. If you're sitting there at home, we've got 2 great examples. And anyone else, if you've got an emotion in the body that you've identified, and notice where it is, point to it. There it is. It's in the chest. It's in the stomach. It's that feeling where you can see what you saw, you can feel what you feel, and you can hear what you heard when those things come up. That's all still there. And I want you to imagine like you're grabbing that emotion out of your chest and you're physically reaching in with your magical hands and you're grabbing all of that emotion out and you're holding it out in front of you into a big ball and just emotion. So Will's pulling out the blue emotion in his chest about worried about the job, the 7 out of 10, and you're pulling it all out. Now, be careful because that stuff hides. It just wants to hide. Just grab it all out. And this one's very much the David Snyder technique that I'm pulling out here. This is what he does every time. Pull it all out of the chest, all of it, until you've got it all. And because that stuff loves to hide. And let me know when you've got it all and it's all in front of it. All that emotion out of the stomach. Just pretend like it's like you're a kid and like you can do it. Don't let your logical brain get involved. Just pull all that out of the stomach or the chest. And you're holding it out in front of you and close your eyes. Just imagine that feeling. Has that color changed or has that now got a color than it didn't have before? What's changed about the color, let's say, for Will? What's changed? And because I'm not there live with you, if I was doing it live, I wouldn't ask you to stop and put in the chat box, but you've got this emotion. And I want you to notice the color, it's changed, it's gone a little. That's okay. It feels better. That's good. It's because you pulled it out. And so imagine what direction it's spinning in your hands. So it'll have a direction of travel, like a ball spinning. It might go this way, it might go this way. It doesn't matter which way it goes, but that's good that you've managed to make it feel better. But have a look at that feeling inside your hands there and out in front of you. And notice it's spinning in a certain direction. And can you see it's spinning in a certain direction? And if it's not, you can spin it in a direction and you'll know the direction just intuitively, that direction to spin it for healing, to spin it for the opposite to the anxiety of the job or the anxiety of the performance review, and turn that spin. So if it's spinning in a certain direction, turn it the opposite way, and turn it the opposite way, make it go faster and faster and faster, and use your hands like I am right now and make it go faster and faster and faster, and spin it and spin it and spin it and double the spin in the healing direction, the opposite to the anxiety. Double it again, and double it again. And when you know you've got it, and you can't, it's like a washing machine out of control, it's just got to spin all of its own. I want you to slam it back into that place and spin it inside where it was before, in the opposite direction, spinning it faster and faster inside the body. Imagine that feeling in the stomach or in the chest where that old feeling was, and spin it around and play with it and turn it and spin it even faster. It's gone. It bloody works. It bloody works. That's good feedback. I was looking for some good feedback. That's great. And so you can now control and neutralize and keep spinning it. Spin it faster and faster inside there now. So what you've done, you've grabbed it outside, you've flipped it over, and then you put it back in. And notice how you can now calm yourself down. Now, you might still need to address the deeper stuff that might be going on under the surface, but you can handle the moment. You could be in a work meeting, feeling these feelings, and you can spin it the other way. Neutralize it, keep your work mojo going on, and make sure that you're still performing at work and you're still perceived as having it together at work. And how did you go, Jot? How did you go with your spinning of the emotions and putting it back in your stomach and spinning it the other way? Did you get a first direction? And if it was still, you could spin it any way you want manually. Nothing changed for you. That's all right. And so are you imagining in the tummy the emotion turning around? It could even spin around really small. It's about playing around with it and change the direction. You could spin it this way, that way. It's about trying to manipulate your own system and getting your mind and body to connect back up, because we've all been taught to disconnect our brains from our body. But if we can start, and what happens is your amygdala, the emotional master of your body, takes over. Now, that's great if there's a saber-toothed tiger next door. I'm happy to be running. But at a work meeting, it's probably not appropriate. And so there are other things that we can play with. And I can throw a few other little things in. So that is the spinning technique, and I'm really excited that Will said it bloody works. I'm excited by that. And what I want to do is post-COVID is run these live face-to-face so that everybody can actually be in a room and we can sort of read each other's body language a bit better, because you can see it when things change in someone's body. So that's exciting. And as for Jot, well, there are other things that we can do. And so just as a little add-on, it's still 8:21, we're still doing good for time. Let's do a couple of little tricky techniques at the end here, which can really help. Let's have a play. So imagine that moment when you're stressed about, let's say Will's got his stressed about work and his job situation, and Jot's stressed and stressed about the job, not interview, performance review. And so you got the performance review and you've got, the job situation. Seems to be all work related. And I want you to go back to that time and imagine a picture in front of you. Make a picture frame of that feeling. The one that you had in the chest, bring it out and imagine a picture frame in front of you. Close your eyes and imagine that stomach feeling for you, Jot, and a picture frame. And inside that picture is a picture which represents what happened, which represents the stress. It represents the anxiety. Do you have that picture? And it's a big, thick, black picture frame. And inside there is that feeling and the things that are causing it, the things that are triggering those feelings. And I want you to imagine that it's like a TV set. One of those old 1960s, 70s, 80s TV sets. And it's got a big knob on it. And so physically draw the picture frame, closing your eyes like this. Draw it with your hands like this. So your unconscious mind sees it. And then that big, thick picture frame, put your hand on the knob like the old 1970s TV knobs. You remember the ones which you used to have to turn like this before remote controls and when TVs still had buttons? Or maybe imagine like your oven dials, like the same kind of thing. And you've got that dial. And what's going to happen is everything inside that picture is going to change. When you turn it all the way to the one direction, for me, that I'm going left, which is your right, that picture goes all the way to black. So close your eyes now and imagine the picture in front of you and your hands on the dial and turn it all the way and make the picture go black, all black. Notice how that feels. If that's good, just record that that's good. Then turn it all the way back to neutral so the picture's back. And then put your hand on the knob and turn it all the way the other way and make it go all the way white. The whole picture now is white. And notice how that feels. And then turn it all the way back to neutral. Which one felt better? When you had that anxiety, when you had that worry, what happened to you guys? Was it black? Did black make things better or change it? How it felt in the body? Or did turning it all the way to white change it and make it better to the body? Did it make any difference to you guys? Let's put in the chat box anything that happened for you in that little exercise. So you've got that picture of the emotion, you've pulled it out and you've put it into a picture. That's the image. Black was better. So we've got Jot. Cool, that's awesome. So Jot's got black was better. How did Will go? Will's very much participating. What did you get there, Will? Did you turn it to white and then turn it to black? Which one? Both? And it changed the feeling inside the body? Orange. You got orange. Okay, cool. So did it turn orange? Or was that the color? Or right. So you've turned it one way and you've had yes, it turned orange, the color and the feeling. Wow, that's cool. So you've turned it to make it go all black and then it's turned orange and then you've changed the coding inside your body. Because what you're doing is you're changing, it's like the computer programming of your brain. And it's like, oh, that's not what we had before. And so it kind of loses a little bit of attachment to it. So that's really cool. So there you go. There's another little technique. And one more before we finish. So the same idea, take the picture out of it was the chest blue for Will, and it was the stomach for Jot, and put the picture out in front of you again. Draw that picture around again, and we're away from spinning feelings here, but this is all right. We're having fun with our elements of our pictures. And I want you to take that image, I want you to shrink it down really tiny. Close your eyes, have all the representation of that anxiety in that picture, and then close it, shrink it down really small. So shrinking it down so it's like a tiny little picture that you can hold in your hands like this. And you've got this picture and you're looking at it. It's tiny. It's like you've moved it away from you. It's changed the feeling a little bit maybe. And I want you to now take that picture and blink it black and white, black and white, black and white, black, white, black, white, black, white, black, white, black, white. And what that does, how does that feel? When you flick that black and white, tiny little picture that represents the feeling here and here, what do you feel? Black and white, black and white, black and white. Give yourself a moment. Flick it black and white, black and white. And if it changes to something else like Will's did, then that's cool too. What did you feel? Just put in the chat box and let me know how that's changed feelings inside the body. How that's changed the coding in your mind. And how that's adjusted. And so just put in the chat box what shifted for you, or did something happen? And just have a feel of how that looked when you shrunk that down. Nothing shifted that time. Flicking it black and white, and you had the feeling from the stomach. And what was the image that it represented? Maybe it was sitting across the table from your boss who was going to do a performance review. Or maybe it was the lead up to that. Maybe it was a movie you could put in there. And so you can start to add more detail to what's inside that picture that's in the stomach. And you can start to think, oh, it's the whole movie of the lead up of the week and the things that the person that's interviewing me would normally have said. These are the things that we can add to it, obviously through a chat box, a little bit tricky. And so we can start to play with that by finding the elements that are important to you. That's the key. And if you can find the elements that are important to you, then that's when it will start to shift. So we maybe haven't put the right elements in yet for you yet, Jot, with that one. And so that is my little spinning feelings with a few little extra bits on the end. And I'll go back to my little presentation. And thank you for interacting with me tonight, guys. It's been really great having a few people interact. And I mean, this is really just all the little elements that we put in there, but I sort of sped it up a little bit. So I'll go past all that. I can send you these PowerPoints if you want to. So that is the round 2 of spinning feelings. And what you can do is you can start playing around with all of those elements, right? You get to take this home with you today, which is what I love. I love sharing this stuff. And you can Google lots of videos. I can send you links of some of the masters at work doing all these spinning feelings. And this is my interpretation of their feeling spinning techniques. And so at the beginning of the day, I did promise an opportunity for a complimentary roadmap session. And there is my details there. And if you would like to claim that, also there's my number again. And you can text me and just say, let's chat. And I'm very happy to offer the free roadmap session where we do things like this, but we might have a chat about what you need. And then on the phone quickly. And then I'll do a Zoom where we can go through some of the techniques I use with my coaching practice. And it might be getting clear on, you know, where you want to go, or maybe there's definitely some stuff coming up that you'd like to just sort out. That's what I help people with, is to sort out that internal tension that goes on inside of us where we want something, but we hold ourselves back. I really am going into that space of identity And one of the reasons for the identity piece is because, well, my background is I'm adopted, and that whole adoption element of not knowing your heritage really does seem to drive me to chase down identity. And the reason why identity is so powerful is that we will do everything we can to fulfill our identity. And so if you're doing some dumb things in life, not dumb things, but things that are not serving you, it's because maybe there's a few elements in the identity that we can tweak for you that can help. And one quality at a time, we can start to help you shift towards a better life, because your brain is designed to chase your identity no matter what. When you see a homeless person sleeping on the street, that's what's going on. It's identity. I'm not moving out of here because that's who I think I am. And that's what I love, helping people to shift who they think they are. And then because they want something better, right? Because they're not happy with where things are at. So if you'd like to do one of those roadmap sessions, please send me a message, and that'd be great to reach out. And so if you want to claim that one-on-one complimentary roadmap session, all you have to do is put "let's chat" in either the text or email or in the messenger, which I just put in. Just send me a text and I'll reach out to you, and we'll do that 1 hour session across Zoom. So are there any questions, and are there any things that I can clarify for everybody today? That's my details there if you want to take a screenshot of that. But are there any questions that anyone has? Does anyone want to unmute and have a chat about any questions you've got about the spinning feelings technique? Yep, of course, no worries. Well, thanks for coming along. Appreciate your time and your energy, and your interaction really has been fantastic to catch up with you, mate. Fantastic. No, that's cool. No worries. No worries, Jot. All good. No worries. Well, it's about just, we're starting to become the puppeteer of our mind, aren't we? So that's what we're all doing. So it's just about trying to figure out, and there'll be something in particular for each person where there's a particular thing that'll be the really important piece, and maybe the shape's not there, or the color, or some people it's the black white thing's not working. But there'll be some element where we add that piece in, and all of a sudden, things start to sync up and start to join up. So it's really about, I mean, I'm using generic terms across chat box, right? So if you get to know the person's story and you get to know the way they function, then it's a lot easier once you know, right, this is what's important to that person. So it's really about learning about those little missing pieces. And this generic kind of a presentation works, maybe 2/3 of the time, maybe. And then there's other bits I've got to find for the individuals. So it depends on, and when it's specific and tailored, then it starts to work for everyone. So that's just a little piece. So all good. You've done really well. Thank you for joining and interacting, because, it's participation that's very, very important. No worries. Well, thank you. Well, that's about it for today. And thank you for joining along. We've got Anna's phone, Jot and Rashane's all that's left. So thank you for coming. It's really great. And I will sign off there, and we will have a chat later on. So reach out to me if you want to have a roadmap session. All right. I will stop it all there. And thanks again for joining. Thank you. Thanks for joining, Jot. Thank you, Anna. And I will see you all very soon.